John Paul Lederach is an American professor of international peacebuilding. He is widely known for his pioneering work in conflict transformation and is involved in reconciliation work in Colombia, the Philippines, and Nepal, plus countries in East and West Africa. Often, when working with new groups, he starts by asking them this question: what are the similarities and differences between a village and an ant colony? The similarities are, well, we both work hard. If you stand back and look at it from a big distance, we go out and provide and bring food back, and we all look alike from a distance. Differences, well, we think and feel, but ants act by instinct. We have choices and dreams. We're quite diverse within our own colony. Each of us is unique. Our life and our experience are so much more dynamic and rich than ants. And there's one other big difference. Within their colony, ants don't fight. Within their colony, ants don't fight. John Paul Lederach writes, the very elements that make human experience rich and dynamic, those characteristics missing in the experience of ants, are the elements that make conflict inevitable. So we cannot hope to improve our relational well-being by avoiding conflict, because we can't avoid it. In a world where tensions and conflict are unavoidable, then if we are going to improve our relational well-being, we need to go into training to get better at dealing with conflict. Conflict can happen whenever you have any group of people in the same place. The mark of a mature community or a mature relationship is not one without conflict. That would just be apathy. The mark of a mature community or a mature relationship is one in which conflict is dealt with well. So how do we deal with conflict in practice? Like everything else, dealing with tensions and conflict is a skill that can be learned, but I'll cover a few things that can help. Firstly, forgive them. We cannot look to reconcile conflict if we're carrying unforgiveness and unwilling to contemplate letting it go. Remember from last week, we talked about unforgiveness leads to revenge. Forgiveness can open the door to justice. Secondly, pray for them. It's impossible to hold on to anger for someone when you're blessing them. To bless someone is to will good for them. When dealing with any tension or conflict, pause before you go to see the person and just pray for them. Thirdly, recognize that their emotional mug is full. If we're dealing with a particularly difficult person, then it's likely that their mug is overflowing. And as we said last week, that does not excuse their behaviour, but can explain it and can make it easier to let go, easier to forgive, easier to try and understand, and then we can begin to pursue reconciliation. Fourthly, seek wise counsel. Now, this is not looking to get people on my side. It's about looking for advice from people who can help resolve conflict, advice on how best to approach a person or a situation, advice from people who are peacemakers. Fifthly, try to see things through their eyes. Try to understand their perspective. One of the biggest causes of tensions and arguments at home and at work is our failure to understand the other person's perspective. We get frustrated and ask, why don't you see things the way I do? When it would be better to say, help me to see things through your eyes. When we are curious and genuinely try to understand their perspective, then it can begin to open the way for reconciliation. Sixthly, don't try to win. If you are looking to score points and win, then tensions will remain in that relationship, and they'll be looking to score points next time. If you want a future where you can work or live with this person, if you want to fix this relationship, or at least fix this conflict, then you have to approach it in a spirit of looking for the solution, not for the win. And it can help to keep focused on that by imagining how you would like this relationship to work in the future. Seventh, ask questions and listen. And eighth, look to understand their feelings. Again, these are both about understanding their perspective. Ninth, linked in with that, explain your feelings. People can't deny how you feel about something, so rather than talking about what they did, talk about how something made you feel. 10th, never say you. Don't say you did this or you did that. That will just make them defensive. Instead, talk about the situation or the event and keep trying to understand their perspective. And finally, be calm, be patient and controlled. Keep letting go, keep being curious, keep being present, and keep reimagining. Most of this previous list falls into one or more of the three habits that I mentioned in that last point: be curious, be present, and reimagine. These three habits are taught in the Difference course, which is a way of equipping people to be better at dealing with tension and conflict. We'll be running the Difference course as a whole community in Lent next year. So if you want to improve your relational well-being by getting better at dealing with conflict, then look out for more details in the new year. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." Now, he said that because he recognized those who would engage in the difficult task of reconciling differences are a real blessing in whatever their context. And our world needs more people like that. We need people who will honestly acknowledge the tensions and conflicts that exist in our world and will work to be peacemakers. We need people who, instead of seeing the reasons we differ from those around us, will see the common humanity in others who may hold different views to ourselves. We need people who will do this not just in areas of big political disagreement, but in the everyday tensions that can exist in our families, our friendships groups, our workplaces, our schools, etc. We need more peacemakers. One final note. St. Paul wrote, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." If it is possible. It is not always possible. Some people have a problem. Remember the critic's continuum we looked at to do with the critic in day 2. The mean-spirited critic who suffers from a fragile self-esteem and cuts everyone down. You have to just manage your contact with people like that. And if someone is being abusive, you don't try to change them. We need to forgive, but we need to remove ourselves from that relationship. And you need to seek wise counsel on how you best might manage that. So far this week, we've looked at the need to improve our relational well-being by managing the impossible people in our lives, learning to control our reaction to them, and by going into training to better deal with conflict. But there are also people in our lives that build us up and encourage us, and we'll look at why and how we need to invest in those relationships tomorrow. I hope you can join us.